We're on the farm this weekend, getting nice and hot and sweaty. It's August 28th, and we just got our plots in, as you can see behind me. This year we planted probably about a week later than what I normally shoot for. The past couple years I've shot for about the 21st of August, and that's kind of new for me, bumping it back a week. However, you kind of get the idea, the mentality that the earlier you plant, the earlier your plants can mature. And obviously bigger is better, or at least in our minds it is. However, some recent knowledge has kind of changed my mind about that. And even though come September 24th or whenever season opens, the plot might not be to its full potential, 10, 12 inches tall, it might be more like 5 or 6. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because it's still growing and it's still going to reach maturity. So this plot behind me actually is broken up into 2 sections. And from an aerial, it kind of has a sort of an hourglass shape, and we're planting it in 2 different things this year. The one is just the turnips, radishes, and clover blend, and then the one closest to me over my back is Deadly Dozen by Real World Wildlife Products, and I'm excited to try that product because it has 12 different varieties in it, and it's supposed to provide food for basically all sorts of wildlife, especially deer, obviously. From the beginning of season through late winter. So it's my first time trying that one. However, diversity is always a very good thing with anything out here that we're messing with. So first thing we did, I went ahead and mowed it off first, and then we went over it with the tiller a few times to get it real nice and fine. And then I went ahead and actually the one required some lime. The one further behind me didn't need any. The pH on that one was good. So put down a little bit of lime, which normally I would prefer to do that sooner rather than right at planting. However, that wasn't an option, so we put down roughly 500 pounds of lime. After that, we went ahead and put the fertilizer down and drug it to kind of pack it in a little bit. We had some weight on the drag, because if your boot is sinking way down in some nice fine tilled dirt, that means the seed's probably going to do the same, and you don't want it to get too deep down there, otherwise it won't germinate. So went ahead and drug it, and then went over it with both types of seed that we had and drug it one more time. And luckily that time was really just to try to cover up some of that seed to protect it from the heat. And obviously when you drag that over, you're going to hold that moisture in, hopefully over the seed to help it germinate, and also from the turkeys, which we have recently learned today that the turkeys have already found the seed because we pulled up here and there was quite a few turkeys up here, some poults, which normally is the greatest thing in my eyes. However, not with some fresh seed in the soil. So looking forward ahead, now we're praying for rain, and that's kind of where it's up to God. It's out of our hands. We've done everything that we need to do. I didn't refer to a soil sample. However, we obviously did that months ago, checked our pH so we knew exactly how many pounds of lime we needed to put down, and then also got our recommendations for fertilizer. So they each require different things. Don't just go based on a general recommendation for how many pounds of lime, whether that's 50 pounds of lime per 1,000 square feet or per acre. It's never safe. At least we can walk away from this today knowing we did everything we were supposed to do to a T. And if it doesn't grow, that's more than likely up to Mother Nature, not us. So there's about a 60% chance of rain coming on Tuesday. Today is Sunday. And I'm really, really hoping we get some rain. So we're going to pull off the plot here, and we got a little ways to get home. We're going to get moving. Alright, well my video camera is actually dead right now, so I'm filming on my cell phone. However, I wanted to jump back on here and kind of give you guys an update. As you can see behind me, we have a food plot that we planted exactly a week ago from today. I have a camera over this plot, and pretty much ever since the day we pulled off of it, there have been turkeys in here like you would not believe, which historically in the past has not really been a problem. This area has seen a pretty tremendous decline in turkey population, and it was no different on this particular piece of property. But for whatever reason, there's a pretty nice flock of hens and poults this year. So we have a group of roughly 16 birds that are in here just having a heyday. And to be honest with you, I've never had an experience as far as having turkeys be a problem after planting, so I had no idea how much devastation they would do as far as stunting the germination of this plot. So all week I basically got to watch on a cell cam these turkeys devour this food plot, and not really knowing how much of an impact that would have. A couple days after we planted, it was actually Tuesday, I know we got a pretty good amount of rain down here, so I knew the plot got rain. I was hoping, we dragged the plot to try to flip some of that dirt over top of that seed to not only hold moisture in, but to also protect it from getting eaten up by birds and turkeys and all the rest. So I know we got the rain, which would also help then pull the seed down into the soil. And then once it would germinate, I kind of felt a little bit better about the turkeys not eating on it so much, since it was no longer a seed and was starting to sprout. So we just pulled in here, and as you can see, maybe behind me, the plot looks pretty bare, and not necessarily as far as germination goes, because we're just finally starting to get to that stage, but you don't see anything back there, and that's about to change today, because I have this cage here with me, and I'm going to be putting out utilization cages in this plot behind me, as well as a couple others that we have out. And really, if you don't do that, it's a good thing to start doing. You do all the right things. You take your soil sample, you put down lime, you put down fertilizer, you take all the right proper steps to plant a successful plot. You put a lot of money into it, and the importance of using a utilization cage is when you come back, a week, 2 weeks, or 3 months later to kind of see how your plot's doing or hunt over it, you need to know whether it grew or not. And I think a lot of people go wrong when they go back to a plot and it's just bare dirt or close to that, and they just assume they did something wrong, and that's not always the case. So I don't want people to be writing off planting methods or practices just because their plot doesn't look the way they want it to. I think there's two things that I do, and I think everyone should do, to kind of gauge how their plots are being planted and the success of them, and that's trail cameras and utilization cages. So trail cameras, you can kind of gauge how many animals were in there, whether that be deer, turkeys, or whatever else, and also utilization cages. And for maybe a beginner too, you can look in your utilization cage maybe a month or two after planting and identify all the different species of plants you have growing in there. And although you may not know them, if you look outside of your utilization cage, you can determine, okay, I see that outside of it and inside of it, so that's not getting eaten. So maybe it's a weed, or maybe it's something that you did plant, or you may be able to say, I see it in my utilization cage, but I don't see it out here. And if that's something you planted, which you can then figure out what it is, go online, figure out what it is, then you'll know that's attractive to your deer in your particular area at that time of year. Now, don't write off certain seeds or blends just because they're not getting hit in September or October, because that doesn't mean that they're not going to get hammered in December, January, or February. So the utilization cages are huge for that. You would not believe how many people go to food plots, see that they're decimated, and assume that they did something wrong, when in reality there was just a pile of deer in there that completely devoured it. So the utilization cage in kind of compilation with a trail camera will tell you, kind of paint you the picture of what happened over that period of time from when you planted to when you came back. So that's what I'm about to do. I can show you guys a couple shots of the food plot, maybe some close-ups of what we're seeing as far as germination goes. There are 2 different blends planted behind me, and like I said, there's been a lot of turkeys in here, so they've been dusting in this plot, which is kind of cool if you're into that. So I can show you guys that as well. So we'll jump over there and see what we have going on and get these cages out.